going to jump ahead to something that might be potential agreement then, okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So basically, if you're saying that since the early 20th century, we had a privatized system that was better. The federal government stepped in during a time of great economic depression. That's kind of when a lot of this, got cemented into the American fabric. You can say
the two aren't necessarily connected, but they happen at similar times. Yeah.
Sure. But basically, the reason why I'm resistant as somebody who is pro welfare, I guess you could say in some way, that it would be better if we went back to the lodge system or we went back to the fraternal order system. Okay.
Yeah.
Do it. But here's the thing.
Well, it's illegal, and the government is providing these services with taxes.
It's illegal for you to become a part of the Masons, and then as a part of the Masons or another fraternal society, it's impossible for you to pay dues into a system that gives you cheaper health care.
So what was made illegal, and what is is it illegal to do that? You're right. It's not technically illegal to engage in that services.
Yeah, we could do
but
that.
It is illegal for
Tim Cast healthcare program.
It is illegal for them to own hospitals. It is illegal for them to negotiate for doctor salaries without following specific rates set by the government. It is illegal there's massive loopholes and regulations in the healthcare industry, right? Like it is the most regulated industry in America is healthcare and drugs, right? So the government stepping in on behalf of doctors because healthcare costs were too cheap, and they were under threat because in Pennsylvania, Michigan, California, Maine, and Vermont, doctors associations and medical associations were doing everything they could to get rid of these people. Now, you said you want to tie it to the culture, and here's the thing: is that it's what was the healthcare lodge doing? It wasn't just giving people insurance. It wasn't just giving people their medical care. What it was doing is it was communally bringing men together to discuss when Bob lost his job, everybody would go to the lodge and they would say like, hell, Bob lost his job. Anybody know anybody that can hire? There was a communal aspect of mutual aid.
But this gets into, yeah, sure. And I love mutual aid. I love community. I love all the things that you're talking about. But the thing is, what I think Tim jumped to, which would be my point, is that we had something pre-World War II, which was the Great Depression, which was like a insane economic moment. We're probably experiencing one of those insane economic moments now. We did experience an insane economic moment in 2008. And the truth is that the fraternal orders were not enough in order to deal with it. So there was public outcry. Hey, there's old people starving. Hey, there's young people starving. Hey, there's people who can't get medical care. We need a bigger organization in order to step in order to provide these services.
Let me
fail.
I'll tell you. I want to ask a follow-up question.
Real quick. Okay.
Sure.
What's wrong with leaving the elderly to their own devices?
They're going to die horribly.
Right. What's wrong with it?
I like old people.
So what is the logical reason? What is the functional mechanical reason that we should create a government system to protect the lives of individuals who are unable to pay their own?
Yes. Okay. So you're going to have to give me a little bit of latitude. Okay. All right. So this is part of my problem with libertarianism. This is part of my problem with individualism. I'm not a collectivist. I'm a communitarian. I think there's a balance between the individual and the collective. Okay? We are not born alone. We are born with nurses, doctors, family members taking care of us. We also do not die alone. Ideally, we have doctors, nurses, family members taking care of us as we die. And so what would happen in a healthy, reciprocal society is that we would say that we know we are born. We know that we die. We know there's a whole thing in between. We want to make every single aspect of a human life the best that it maximally can be at every step of the way. Therefore, we're not just talking about rights. We're also talking about responsibilities. And so one of the responsibilities, I have grandparents. They have passed on now. One of the responsibilities of children is to see their parents out in a good way. One of the responsibilities of a community is to take care of old people when they're on their way out.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I agree with everything that you just said, which is why you should abolish Social Security and go back to private systems.
Pass.
And so let me explain, right? The best data that we have, because we're not looking at elderly poverty rates until we're not tracking most things until the establishment of the Federal Reserve in 1913, right? So economic data is scarce, right? But the best that we have, you can look up. Cato Institute did a piece on this, support of the elderly before the Depression, right? And if you want to look up more about fraternal societies, read David T. Beddoes' book, From Mutual Aid to the Welfare State, Fraternal Services and Social Services, 1890 to 1967. That's where most of this stuff is coming from, right? But we know from internal surveys, the best stuff that we can find, right? That elderly poverty, where people were in need of assistance, depending upon the different groups and societies, it looks like it's somewhere between 10 to 20% of elderly were in desperate need of help. Okay. Now in 1935, when we established the Social Security Act, right? It's April, I believe. Elderly poverty rate was about 40%. Okay, so during the Great Depression, you're right, things got so much worse. Now, of course, fraternal societies were being already shut out, destroyed, overregulated by about 1910 is when they really start coming in, pushing them out. Things get worse. But of course, the Great Depression occurred as well. Now, the claim to fame of people that say, well, Social Security has helped us so much is that between 1935 to 1960, it fell from 40% to about 35%.
You just heard it straight from the mouths of Connor, Tim Pool, and Fabian Liberty, an increasingly rare moment of honest discussion in a culture that's allergic to institutional accountability. It would be better if we went back to the lodge system or the fraternal order system. Connor, when Bob lost his job, they would say, anybody know someone hiring? Fabian Liberty. Welcome to a time when men helped each other. Not with hashtags, not with tax forms, but with hands and honor. But make no mistake, that system was murdered, brick by a federal apparatus drunk on its own monopoly of compassion. The lodge didn't collapse, it was annihilated. And now, we're supposed to pretend that swapping your neighbor's handshake for a DHS case manager is somehow progress. Please, let's stop gaslighting each other. As Connor put it, it's illegal for you to become part of the Masons and pay dues into a system that gives you cheaper health care. That's right. Try to opt out. Try to form a parallel structure. Try to build something rooted in culture, brotherhood, and voluntary exchange. You'll be met with 1,000 laws, lawsuits, and licensing threats. Fabian put it plainly. It's illegal for them to own hospitals, to negotiate for doctor salaries without following specific rates set by the government. The state didn't improve mutual aid. It outlawed competition. They told you it was for your safety. But what they meant was, we can't allow communities to solve problems better than we can, or people might stop worshiping our bureaucracy. And as the conversation turned toward the Great Depression, Connor pointed out what the regime would love you to forget. Fraternal orders were not enough. There was public outcry, people starving. We needed a bigger organization to step in. Yes, the eternal excuse of tyrants. There was a crisis. That same crisis logic has justified the Patriot Act after 9/11, the Fed's money printer after 2008, and lockdowns, mandates, and trillions in corruption after 2020. What's the through line? Every time there's a panic, the Fed snatch power, destroy private solutions, and then act like they saved you from the fire they started. They didn't rescue mutual aid. They replaced it with a bureaucratic jungle so tangled it could strangle a bear. Fabian nailed the deeper point. The healthcare lodge wasn't just giving people insurance. It was communally bringing men in. It wasn't just economic, it was cultural. Lodges weren't handout stations. They were accountability machines. Lose your job, they knew your name, your story, your family. You were part of a tribe. Try getting that from your local SNAP office. Today, people wait 6 hours in a DMV chair for a piece of paper to prove they're poor enough to qualify for assistance from a system that despises them. Let's talk heresy. Here's the part that melts the NPCs on both sides of the aisle. Yes, I believe in UBI and universal health care, but only if we blow up the corrupt war machine and bureaucratic monstrosity that currently pretends to be compassionate. Here's the litmus test. Does it simplify? Does it reduce government control over people's lives? Does it obliterate bureaucracies and replace them with flat universal rules that apply equally? Then guess what? It's not big government, it's efficient rebellion. UBI without 10,000 gatekeepers, universal care that replaces 5 alphabet agencies, not adds to them. That's not centralization. That's a controlled demolition of the managerial state. Pay for it with the DoD's warlord slush fund, CIA regime change cash, and the entire welfare labyrinth that punishes work, family, and independence. You're left with a simple flat safety net, plus free citizens, plus no bureaucrats left to surveil you. Sound contradictory? Only if you think liberty means austerity for the poor and blank checks for the Pentagon? The goal isn't to fix the welfare state, it's to end the welfare class. Not the poor, the parasitic class of administrators, regulators, and paper pushers who build empires out of other people's misery. Bring back the lodge, yes, bring back mutual aid, brotherhood, and accountability. But if we're going to have any national programs at all, make them universal, voluntary, decentralized, and paid for with the skulls of Leviathan's middle managers. What do you think? Do you believe we should trade bloated bureaucracy for dignity and simplicity? Would you take UBI or universal health care if it meant cutting the DoD in half and torching the welfare industrial complex? Drop a comment below and tell me how you'd rebuild real community from the ground up, rebuild the lodge, gut the swamp, decentralize everything.